Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Daughters of the Corner podcast. My name is Lauren, your host, and today my special guest is
Lisa.
Lisa. Thank you so much for joining me. I know this has been a long time coming. We've been working on this for a minute, but I just want to say thank you for joining me. And you have the freedom to share whatever you want to share today. So the floor is yours. Let's get started. Tell me I guess about your childhood growing up and then eventually like how you got into the game.
Okay, so I grew up in a very dysfunctional, drug and alcohol abusing family.
Hmm.
More so with my dad. My mom was like dismissive and she was being abused, but whatever with all that, right? So my dad leaves home and my mother had a boyfriend.
Hmm.
This is the first time I'm telling this to strangers, kind of. So I'm going to let it out there. You ready? So
Yeah.
he started touching me from like the waist up.
Hmm.
And I used to just freeze and not move. Like I would be laying on my stomach and he'd come in and sweep his hands under my boobs and I wasn't even really
Hmm.
developed yet, right?
Yeah.
So I eventually told her and she didn't believe me. I was a
Hmm.
runaway. She tried to put me in, she had me in DYS. She had her chins out on me and all this other. So I was like sleeping in project empty buildings, people's
Hmm.
cars. And we had a neighbor that used to babysit her kids. So I went to go stay with her. Now the neighbor was married to a man. He was kind of a pimp, but not like the pimp I ended up with, which was his cousin. Okay.
Hmm. Okay.
So when I'm 15, Thanksgiving Day, we go to the family grandmother's. It's a big house in Massachusetts. Like there's a whole generation, there's many generations of people in the game. Okay. It's like notorious back in the day in the 80s. So I meet my pimp, who was like 10 years older than me at the time, but I didn't know he was a pimp. I just thought he was a cute guy. He was playing the piano. I was smitten with him. So the woman, the neighbor that I was staying with, she says, "Oh, we're going to go for a ride after we leave the family gathering." And she brings me to his house.
Hmm.
I'm so naive and not stupid, but not seasoned when it comes to this I'm coming
Of
upon, right?
course, yeah.
So I'm in this big house, which I didn't realize at the time was like a 14-room mansion in the middle of Malden.
Mm.
But I didn't even know that. So,
Yeah.
like, now that I think of it, I'm like, what?
Mm.
So we go into his house, and I still don't remember or understand why I saw a girl walk through the house but didn't think anything of it.
Mm.
And he said that he wanted me to come clean his house and he would pay me because I needed a job, right?
Mm. Mm.
But while we were there, he rolled out like a big thing of jewelry. And he had given the woman I was staying with like a bracelet and gave me a ring. So we're starting off like fast, right?
Yeah.
So he like dates me and almost courts me for like almost a year
Mm.
before I knew what was going on.
Mm.
Having sex with me, all this stuff.
Yeah.
So now we live in the projects. I'm with my mother. I go
Mm.
back to my mother, and I had found out later that she had already talked to him with the neighbor about conversating about stuff in the life. Now,
Mm.
from what I understand, what he told me was she said to him, if I knew what I knew today, that she would go work for him. This is what I heard. I don't know if it's true, but I mean,
What?
after you hear the story, you'll be like, okay, right?
Yeah.
So she's like, we need now. She's still with the boyfriend who's touching me, but when I started seeing the pimp, the dude, the boyfriend stopped touching me. It was
Hmm.
weird, right?
Because he probably
So
knew he was gonna get
I
hurt
don't
or
know.
some,
Yeah,
some,
I
I don't
don't
know.
know. Right, it was all fucked up. And my
Yeah.
dad's gone at the point. And he's left with his girlfriend across the country, whatever. So I got
Yeah.
like nobody to really come at my back.
Yeah.
So she says, we got to get out of the projects and all this other. So then Pimp over here says, tell her I'll give her $500 to move you guys out of the projects. So he
Mm.
gives her the money, right? We move out of the projects. Now I'm back still home with my mother and her boyfriend. Now there's another dude that's a drug dealer, like a coke dealer. And he like slams me against the walls, trying to stick his tongue down my throat. Like everyone I'm around is like fucking horrible, right?
Yeah.
So I'm telling, I'm gonna say Sweet George. That was his name. I don't really give a shit. Who knows, right? His name was Sweet George.
Yeah.
So I tell him, and I told him, I said, if you don't get me out of here, I'm going somewhere. Like I'm over it. So
Yeah.
then he breaks it to me that he's a pimp and he's got girls at work and he might as well come, work for me and sell your ass basically
Yeah.
because people are trying to touch you for free all the time anyway, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I tell my mother that I'm going to leave with him, but he told me, tell her she needs to have a letter written, signed, and stamped by a constable in order to have you with me because you're a minor. So the
Bro.
dude that's trying to basically rape me, that's doing coke and selling coke, is a constable. Okay, you following this? He signed.
Explain what that is for the people that know, because I'm one of
A
them. I don't know what that.
constable
Yeah.
is like it's not really a lawful, like I think you can just go get a stamp. So it makes a document more
Okay.
legal than if it wasn't. You know
Oh,
what I
okay.
mean? It's
So
like,
it
oh,
kind
this
of
is,
like a notary in a
yeah,
way.
a notary and a constable, yes.
Okay.
So the drug dealer dude, the perverted guy, he's a constable. So he signs and stamps it. My mother gives it to Sweet George, and then I bounce. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's a fair trade because I had called her one day and I said, I forget what I was talking about. She's like, well, it's a fair trade. So basically $500. Ready?
That's sick.
Yeah. So I end up in the house and now I figure out that I have like five wife-in-laws in the same house. And it's
Mm.
like a room with a big whirlpool room, like money, like
Yeah.
Scarface. Okay.
Yeah.
And then he throws me on the track with two girls that are already working, and then it took off from there. So I worked the streets of Boston from the age of 15 to almost 30. I'm
Wow.
trying to get my record sealed right now with the Trafficking Survivors Relief Act. That's a process,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
And then we got raided, 1992. That's a
Well.
big article I'm trying to dig up too. So organized crime in Boston and Malden got together and they broke down the door. They couldn't get him because he wasn't there. Nobody signed on him. So now we got to start traveling because they're running us out of Boston.
Mm.
But in the meantime, there's also massage parlors in Kittery, Maine, like the Kittery, Maine, Portsmouth, New Hampshire line called the
Okay.
Danish.
Okay.
So we work in there. A couple of us is dispersed to different states, cities, whatever, right? So I get trafficked from Boston to California and Hawaii, New
Wow.
York, Canada. They deported my twice. They were like, beat it. I don't even know if I have a record there anymore. Um, Casinos in Vegas, brothels in New York. Like women were running those, like married
Yeah.
women. Then you get your Wall Street people coming in there, all kinds of stupid.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna take a breather on that.
Um, First of all, that's a lot. Like
That's what,
from
yeah,
from a young age, because how old were you? You said when you met this guy?
15.
15. So from 15 to 30.
Yeah.
So then when you were 30, what happened?
All right. So in the meantime, I end up hospitalized from him, broken collarbones, pancreas shut from being punched in the stomach. Like he was very violent. I
Yeah.
never had no violence on the street. It was all him.
Hmm.
So we got a new girl in the house. You know how they pit girls against each other?
Yeah. Hmm.
And he had guns everywhere. He used to take me shooting, teach me how to clean his gun, and then kick my ass. I'm like, maybe he wants me to shoot him because that was my thought process. I was like, if I don't shoot him and get out of here,
Girl.
I'm gonna end up dead, right? So there's a new girl.
I thought my shit was the movie.
Yeah,
Oh, God.
there's a lot of, and I'm older too. I've been waiting a long time because I wanted my son to grow up. I didn't want none of this to taint his life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He's gonna be 26 and he's
Yeah.
doing pretty well for himself. Like I want to be a speaker. There's everything I want to do, but
Yeah.
it's too much at the same time, and
Yeah.
sometimes I got to step back. You know.
Yeah. 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 I get
So
that.
he whacked me in the back of the neck with like a golf club. Those, ugh, I was like, I'm
So
sick of
he's
it. This
like
guy,
full blown gorilla. Because what
yeah,
is that? Yeah.
yeah. He would like put the lights out and start swinging a weightlifting belt in a room full of girls just to keep the fear factor into you, like
Where's this man
crazy shit.
now? Hopefully in prison.
No, that's another thing we think about doing too.
So
But
he's still out?
yeah, but see, he's
Oh,
got a big family and my kids across the country, so it's like, I don't fucking know about all that. That's a
yeah.
lot of,
Yeah.
it's like a fair thing, but not a fair thing at the same time. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And he's like 67. Should he die in prison or should we wait for the wrath of God to take care of his?
Oh, because the wrath of God is gonna take care of it.
Right.
Especially if he's still out doing whatever.
I don't know what he's
Yeah.
doing, but he's got a lot of products of it. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
kids, girls, abuse, like not just me. It wasn't just me.
Yeah.
There's a lot of girls, like a rotating door of like 5 to 15 girls at a time.
Well, hopefully with this. other girls that are, survivors of this dude will speak up too. But yeah,
Mm, I don't think so. That's
yeah,
here I come, right?
yeah.
So when I kept telling the girl that got me in trouble, this is what happened. I said, I'm going to leave here. I want to go finish school. I want to get my GED. I want to work with animals, like be
Hmm.
a vet tech. That was in my head, and I
Yeah,
want eventually want to have my own kid.
yeah.
So as I had said that to her, she went and told him. So now we have, oh, if you think you're going anywhere, I'm gonna cripple you so you can't, right? So I don't remember how I was reading the Bible when I was in a massage parlor,
Yeah,
not comprehending, just trying to seek somebody, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And I gathered the courage to leave. And to this day, I don't even remember. I went to my mother's house, and the boyfriend was still there, but now I'm older.
yeah,
Been on the streets for 15 years, so now I might murder you too if you with me,
yeah,
right? Now I'm over everybody.
yeah.
So when I did that and I left, I took all the jewelry I had and I hawked it. So I went and bought me a little hoopty car. I started taking classes to do my GED. And in the
Hmm.
meantime, I went to Hawk, Help for Abused Women and Children in Salem, Mass. And
Hmm.
I told her my story. And she said, we can't help you because you don't have any children and you have somewhere to stay. She's like, why don't you go be a waitress or something? I was like, I don't want to be around that
What
many
the
people.
What is wrong, bro? I'm sorry. It doesn't matter. Like, I know that there are certain organizations that only do certain things, but for you to come out your mouth and say, like, that's just really insensitive and ignorant.
Right.
And yeah, but
But what she did tell me, ready? She said, find out what you want to do. And at that time, we had the yellow pages to look
yeah,
for business and stuff. She said, write up a resume and send it and see what happens.
yeah.
This is where God's like, watch this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I do it. I made up a resume. I lied, said I work with animals. I mean, I did, but didn't. I
Mm-hmm.
was saving people's dogs my whole life,
Yeah.
including his, because that's another story.
Mm-hmm.
But this woman hired me in 1997 as a groomer. I started at 10% commission. And she said to me, are you sure you never did this before? I said, no, but I really want to.
Mm-hmm.
And the more I got into it, I was like, I don't know, because there's a lot of like dogs that will have tumors, and there's old dogs with
Yeah.
cancer, and a lot of owners that are to their dogs, not beating
Yeah.
them, but neglectful.
Yeah.
But then I just grew to love it. And it was therapeutic, like just helping animals.
Yeah.
And I've been doing the same job for 28 years next month.
Wow.
Hmm.
Wow.
I
So
still love it, but my arm is falling off. That's why I want to eventually dissipate from it. You know what I mean?
yeah. Yeah.
And do the human trafficking stuff. But that's, oh, you know what that entails? It's a lot of layers.
Yeah, no, it's funny. I was gonna say because like when you were getting ready to leave, how you had all of these desires all of a sudden, like you knew what you wanted. It's funny how God placed those desires in you because He did the same thing to me. Like when I
It's a
was getting ready to
vision.
leave,
Yeah,
I told my pimp, I was like, I want to get married one day. I want to live a normal life, whatever that looks like. I want to
right.
have a family. Like I might want the white picket fence dream. And he was like, oh, well, he said, I'm never getting married, so that's not happening. But
Right.
I knew then in that moment, like I knew I wanted more. I knew I wanted to go to school. I knew I wanted these things, but I didn't know at the time that God had placed those desires in my heart. And then at the same time, too, I picked up a Bible and I really read it for the first time ever because I mean, I've had a Bible before. I grew up in Catholic school, but I never read the Bible. I was just like,
Right.
okay, cool, Jesus, God, I know you're there. So, like, I believe in you, but I don't know
You didn't have
you.
a relationship with them yet.
What was it? Do you remember what you read in the Bible, like
I
the first
started from
time?
the very beginning. I was like, let me start from
Remember?
chapter one and started with Genesis right away. And then I
Yeah,
would hop around and did read Job and understood it, but I didn't really understand it.
Job was
And
like one
didn't
of the
until
most
years,
complicated ones too.
right? But God and the devil had a
Yeah,
deal, right? He's like, I'm going to strip him of everything and watch this.
yeah,
And bang, that's what happens. It's called supernatural for a reason,
yeah,
you know.
exactly.
And he puts those visions in your head. And I
Hmm.
do believe we also have the power ourselves from him
Hmm.
to, make it come into fruition. How
Yeah.
can you not
Faith
say it's
without works is dead. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, because the first entire like book I actually read of the Bible was Hosea. And that was the craziest thing to me because I was like on the fence of like, God, are you real? Like
Right.
He's been giving me so many signs, like very specific. Like, I don't know if you know the story in the Bible where he asked for rain and then he asked for the rain to be under the thing and then he asked for the rain to be on top of the thing. Like that's how specific God was when I was asking him for signs. But
Right.
because there was like still some fear in my heart of like, okay, do I take this leap of faith? Do I go out into the unknown or do I stay with what I know? Because what I know sucks and I know that it
Right.
sucks. So like, do I take a chance? And then God introduced me to some man named Hosea and I read the book of Hosea and I was like, "Oh, this is legit. Like this is not a fairy tale. This is real."
Right.
But it's just really crazy how God maneuvers and meets us where we're at. And he knows when we're ready because we're wayward children. We do what we want when we want. We
Right.
could have somebody tell us what to do, but at the end of the day, when the time comes and we had enough of having a hard head and a soft, God will be like,
And
"Come
I
right
didn't
here."
have nobody telling me what to do except him, not God.
Yeah.
Sweet George over here. And
Hmm.
I remember we had to, after you were with him for a year, you had to read like a family crest,
Yeah.
and you would get like a ring, like you were whatever, ready. And at the end of it, it said, "Accept heaven as my hell and Satan as my heavenly father." And I didn't realize that until many, many years after I left. That it even came out of my mouth. First of all, right?
Mm.
I was just worried about getting the ring. And when I got the ring, my ring finger had a callus and was itchy for 15 years and I wore it. And when I took it off, my finger's been fine ever since.
That is insane. It's insane, 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 insane. Because
Yeah.
it's like these things will be right in front of our faces. And it's like, I want to say we're naive because I know I was naive, but like we choose to ignore it or we like
You're
choose to
conditioned too.
believe like it's
Yeah,
not,
you're
yeah, that
conditioned
too.
to be used to it and be like, it's not even like people
Yeah.
like, oh, well, didn't you know you were more deserving? You're not thinking that way. You're trying to stay alive. You know
That's
what I
like
mean?
that's
You're
like
trying to stay
fighting for
alive.
the spot to be the bottom. Like,
Right.
do you know what that entails? You have to recruit other women. You have to
Right.
do all of this. You're
Right.
basically the most abused and the most taken advantage of because
Right.
he knows or he thinks at least because I know there's
What
some
you
girls
can
who don't stay
endure.
that you're
Right.
gonna stay there forever and then he's just gonna keep bringing in girls and
Mm.
man,
It's a way of life, right?
crazy. Yeah, it's a
Hmm.
it's a cult. It is a cult.
Exactly. Facts.
It's a cult, and I didn't know that before. I always thought I was
Me
like,
neither.
but then when you start thinking about it, and they're talking about like game gods and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, the pimp god. The pimp god's got a
Yeah.
friend. Like the phrases that they use and the
Hmm.
it's not just one. You're like, oh, there's a whole bunch of these pricks out here saying the same.
Yeah, no, they have a rule book.
Yeah,
Some of them, I mean, a lot of them make up their own rules because some of them are Romeo pimps, some of them are gorilla
right,
pimps. But the main point is you serve him. He is your God. Like
right.
you worship him. You do everything for him. You give up
And
your life for him.
at first they're not gorilla. At first they're Romeo, the sweetest
Yeah.
kind, and then
Yeah.
they turn into this monster, and you're like,
Yep.
oh, and you're
At
like,
the first sign of
5'1",
disrespect or being out of pocket, that's it.
you're like 5'1", and he's like 6'2", and you're talking shit to him.
Girl, I used to talk so much. I did not care. I knew it was gonna end up with me getting my beat,
In
and
the
I did not
hospital.
care.
Yeah, I was like, he's like, you don't care the consequences. I was like, you might as well just
I'm
kill me.
like, no, because at least if
Seriously.
I'm sorry, not to talk down on the women who are submissive and who don't talk back, but I was not ever that girl. And I don't know if I will be that girl. I mean, I might be submissive to the right man, but
Right. Yeah, they
when
gotta
I
earn it.
know that I'm being disrespected and I don't agree with something, I'm gonna speak on it. And I don't
Right.
care how it ends up.
Right.
Like,
That's for anybody, period.
well, yeah. That's gotten me into trouble. Yeah. Yeah. That's when you have to learn that, turn your other cheek, let God be the one that defends you. Because I'd be quick to try to defend myself, and I usually end up in more crap than I
I
would have been
know.
if I would have just shut up.
I know. But think about how long you were stifled too. So you're like, no, I can't shut up.
No, literally. So what do you want to do in the anti-trafficking world though? Because there's so many different niches within it itself. I feel like.
I want to First, I'd be nervous, but I want to speak to kids because I want it to be proactive and there should be flyers and posters and bathrooms and courthouses, jail cells. hospitals.
Absolutely. I agree.
So if I saw that stuff and I thought there was a glimmer of hope and I even knew what was happening to me, I might have snatched some of that shit up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's trying to find like
And law
what's age
enforcement
appropriate.
too. Work with the
Hmm.
police. I already called Boston Police. I was like, yo, if you have, because they posted a thing on Facebook that they had a 15-year-old girl that was being trafficked. Sounded like her wife-in-law or somebody was sitting in the car waiting for her, and they did
Yeah.
a sting with the police, but they only got the two girls. Okay, so I said,
Hmm.
if you need, I'll offer free advocacy for kids like that, so I
Hmm.
can go in and talk to them and tell them, you don't have to be scared, and they have way more resources now too.
Yeah.
There wasn't nothing when I was leaving. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I had to figure it out.
Yeah,
And
that was a desire that I had, and I thank God that like he fulfilled that in some way because I have been able to work with not like being a subject matter expert, but being a consultant and like giving my point of view on certain things. And it's interesting to say the least. I'll say that.
with law enforcement,
Yeah.
yeah. Well,
Yes.
I feel like another part of that too is to hold them accountable because when I was being trafficked and I was young, hello, nobody could see that I looked like I was 15 and
You know what the problem is, and I've learned this because I said the same thing. I said, I wish that somebody would have came up to me and helped me. But you have to think about it. At that time, at least for me, I can't speak for everybody, but at that time, for me, it didn't matter if a police officer came up to me and told me that I was trafficked, I would not have believed them because I had been so conditioned to believe that I was there by will. I did
mm,
not know what trafficking looked like. It wasn't until after I got out of the game that I spoke with a detective and talked about, my story and stuff, that they told me it only takes one time for you to say no to your pimp trying to tell you to do something for it to become trafficking. I was
mm,
not aware of that. I thought, because when I got into it, I was in a relationship with him and I went in basically willingly, not realizing that he also groomed me for 6 months before it happened. And I was naive and I was in a very vulnerable place. I was an alcoholic. I was depressed. Like there was so much stuff going on, and he came in and saw all of that. And it's
mm,
like these men see things that you can't see. Like, especially if you're in that state of mind, if you're not self-aware, if you're not educated on like, you know, mental health and stuff like that, it can happen to literally anybody. Like I
right,
was an adult when it happened. I was
right.
what, 25, 26 years old.
Mm,
And I always wanted somebody. And I promise you, before I met him, I prayed. And you pray out loud. I know the enemy hears you too. So
of course, right?
I prayed and I said, God, send me somebody. Oh, send me. Okay, this is probably a bad reference, but have you seen Nosferatu?
No.
Okay. And this in the beginning, it just if you don't watch the whole movie because it's demonic. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's
Oh,
about a
shit.
vampire, but it's real freaky and weird.
Mm,
But I watched it. In the beginning of it, she's literally crying out like to the heavens or whatever, send me somebody, send me anybody to fill this void. That's basically what I said. And and not God forbid, the devil sent me Nosferatu because this man was the Walking Dead. He was a
oh
vampire.
my
He was a
God.
succubus. He literally like was like, oh, okay, you're mine. Sign here. I own you now. Until I was able to, break that soul tie and all of those other things. But like, they prey on you. And if somebody was to have come up to me at that time, I would have been like, you're a square. You don't know what you're talking about.
Right, right. That's a
You know?
conditioning too. But
So,
back in the day, they didn't even use the phrase human trafficking. You were just a prostitute or a hoe, right? So
mm-hmm.
when they came at you and they were square, you were totally not listening to them because there wasn't even like a term for it. We were just hoes on the street, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, and part of the game that my pimp told me was that he was selling white women to make up for the reparations of what they did to black people. Oh,
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. What?
but at
Oh
the
my
time,
God. I'm
right,
sorry. Why? Okay.
I know.
It's
No,
really
we can
it's really
laugh. We
messed
can
up.
laugh.
It's they
The psychology story is real, okay?
Yo.
And
Because I'm
but at the
sorry, it's
same
clever,
time,
but like, damn, you're something else. Like,
right, right. But at the time, you're not even comprehending what that even means until later. Because then later I thought
right.
about, like, well, part of him, not to condone it or
Of
minimize anything,
course.
but part of him was actually kind of right, but not that way.
Yeah, of course.
Like sell yourself or something. I don't know. But that's
No,
crazy. Yeah.
that is that's the one thing I hate about them. Well,
Yeah,
I hate many things about them, or I
right,
should say dislike. There's a lot of things I dislike about them, but the one I dislike the most is how they use their words.
right.
Because they could sell water to a fish. If you got
But
the
I
right, like,
honestly don't know if I even took that stuff into consideration because I thought I loved him. So I was like young and stupid and had nowhere to
no, but the
go.
seasoned ones, like the seasoned pimps, like the older pimps, they rhyme with their words. Like everything is
Mhm.
like, and I'm just like, if you're not paying attention to it, if you're not hip, like you're gonna
Right,
be like, oh my God, that's so cool. Like, bro, what the, that's
right.
insane.
So as fucked up as it is, sometimes you have to laugh at it because you're like, what in the world is happening?
No,
Right? And then you go
literally.
into the square world after
Mm.
all that. And now you have to reintegrate. You know what I'm saying?
That was the hardest part. The hardest part for me about reintegrating into society was the money aspect because I didn't have money coming in the way, but I was still spending it. Like
Right.
even if I had $1 to my name, oh, I'll make more later. Like,
That's true
no.
though. Like I have no respect for money kind of to this day
Yeah.
because even in grooming, I learned how to hustle and, get more than what everybody else is getting from hustling on myself on the street. And I turned it into an entrepreneurship, but I do specialty stuff. I do like the senior dogs, the blind
Yeah.
dogs, the
Yeah.
special needs, and that's the niche I got for it, but I also
Yeah.
make sure that you're going to pay me
Yeah, of
more than the
course.
people are getting in the shops. I'm not rich from it. Like if I had started this when I was younger, but I wouldn't have been this good at it either.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
Later in life. But yeah, it's like money's infinite because that's the mindset that you have because you just know how to keep making money
Yeah.
because you're like a fucking money machine.
And
And
then
the survival mental state that we have is stronger than most. It really is.
yeah.
Like I'm not taking anything like, oh, this happened to me. I'm taking that happened to me and I'm turning that pain stuff into power. Like we're going forward with that. We're
Yeah,
not gonna be
exactly.
kicking rocks.
Exactly. Exactly. The other thing was for me, especially coming into Christianity, trying to separate the similarities between my pimp and God. And what I mean by that is, like I said before, like, the worshiping them, making them your world, like God requires all of those things. And I literally wrote that in my book because for me, there has been so many aspects that like God has tried to humble me. And I'm like, you want me to do what? You want me to fast? You want me to I had no problem telling people about him because at the same time, I had no problem telling people about my pimp. Oh,
Right,
you want to come join? Because I had to. But I had no problem telling people about God or about specifically Jesus because, what he did for me. But then when it comes to other aspects, like in my private life, like, it took a long time for me to, how do I say this? For me to distinguish the word daddy and for me to separate what that meant from the game to I don't call God daddy. I don't call him daddy God. Like I'm just saying like he had to eventually even still strip me from that word because
did he make
that
you call him daddy?
who my pimp?
Yeah,
I used to call him daddy, yeah.
that's crazy too. But go ahead, I'm listening.
Yeah, no, I used to call him
That's
daddy.
so
But
creepy.
I
But go
think it
ahead.
was more because I was sick and I had daddy issues. And it was like
Yeah,
for real for me, like as up as it is, like obviously these men know that most of the women that they deal with have daddy
that
issues.
daddy ain't
But at the
around.
same time, they
Right.
have mommy issues.
For real. And daddy issues.
Both of them. But like,
Right,
yeah, for me it was like he knew he knew I had daddy issues. He knew I had family issues, period. And he
right,
used to hang those over my head. Like he always used to promise me to help me get my son back and all of these things, like things that were not even in his control. Like
right.
he promised me an apartment. I made the money 12 times, 12,000 times over. And after 2.5 years of being with him, I never moved into an apartment. We were living out of Airbnbs and hotels. Like,
Mm-mm.
there was just so much stuff that was promised, and then when it came to God, and God started promising me things, and I didn't see them immediately, or not even immediately. If I didn't see them after what 2 years, I was like, it's just not gonna happen.
Right.
It's not happen because I've been here before. I've dealt with somebody like you before. I've been around somebody who, promised me things and made things look all sweet and cute and stuff, and they didn't happen. And look, you're the same way. It didn't happen. Even though he's not, because he has a different plan and our timing, his
So
timing is not our timing. But
is your ex pimp walking around too?
I don't know. I think so. I know there's something going on. I mean, I've been sharing my testimony. I've never said his name. I've never said
Yeah.
his name. I've never said his partner's name. I've never said anybody in relation to his name. Even in my book, their names are changed. Like I did that for a reason because I don't want to give you a reason to come after me. Even though they did still come after me because I was telling my story on TikTok and because I wrote a book.
But
Guess
see, at
what?
the same time, something got to give with that. You know
And
what I
guess
mean?
what? God protected me because when they came and tried to look for me, guess what? He sent me to a whole other state. And I,
Hmm.
I didn't even know what was happening until after God told me about it in a dream. He showed me that he was protecting me.
But what's messed up too is that this is where, like, it didn't make me so callous hearted because then I'm like, they were babies once, like all these dudes, right?
Yeah, that's
Like,
the
what
part.
the fuck
That's
happened
the part.
to them? Right. What's happened to you where you became so whatever you became?
And that's how God allowed me to forgive my pimp because he showed me that he is human, just
Right.
like us. But at the
Right.
same time, just in relation to like stuff like this, one of my favorite verses, like, you are of your father, the devil. Because I'm sorry, you're not God's child. There are some people out here who are the children of the devil. Like,
Yeah. Right. They have to be.
and
Like sometimes when resources want to start telling girls that are in need about God, they don't want to hear it right away.
mm-mm,
It's
mm-mm.
like, it's
Yeah,
not even like a shame thing. It's just
yeah,
like the police telling you, you know, that you're being trafficked. It's like you're not comprehending it and you don't want to hear it
yeah.
because you don't know any better. So that's another thing too. Like I find that's hard sometimes.
Hmm.
And sometimes you have to be careful of people when you work with them so they don't re-exploit you.
Oh, wait a second. Hold on. Let me take a breath for that one. Say that again.
Okay, so say you're gonna work with whoever to tell your story
Mm-hmm.
and try to be proactive or whatever you have in your own
Mm-hmm.
head. And
Mm-hmm.
then you feel like people are supposed to be in the same mindset, but it's
Mm-hmm.
almost like they want to use your story to
Mm-hmm.
benefit what they got going on, which is almost like
Mm.
re-exploiting you.
It is. It's
Right.
sensationalism too because you're using somebody else's story to make your business look better.
Right. So pay me.
I don't listen. I was literally talking to my mom about this earlier. I'm tired of working with people who treat me like the token survivor leader. Like, we
I
get it.
see a
I
lot of
get
it.
it.
Right. I
And my
see a
mom
lot
was
of it.
like, work it. Just work it. I'm
Right.
like, I'm like, but it pisses me off. It's just like, just work it. Juice it. They want to make you the victim, play the victim. Get a check out of it. I'm like, oh, yeah. Easy for you to say. Because then when I'm re-triggered and I go home crying and I want to quit and do whatever,
Right.
no, it's
And
it's
we
not.
don't have victim mindset anymore. We have like victorious and triumphant mindset. So we're
Yes.
like, no, we're not going in that
Yeah.
direction really either.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But I feel like for me, there are definitely still some areas in my mind where I feel like a victim. Not that I am a victim, but like not intentionally either. Like I can't name anything off the top, but like I've definitely noticed like there's just been some things that have happened over the time, and I'm like,
Yeah, definitely like it held me back in life. Like I ran into barriers because of a criminal record, right?
yeah,
With housing and school field trips and jobs. I've had grooming places throw my equipment outside because they hired me, did a Corey, and they were like, "You can't work here." I was like I'm not a sex offender. What kind of bullshit is that? I had
right,
to speak to like superintendents at the school. I was like, I don't want to be a chaperone for everyone's kid. You know, this happened to me when I was a minor. If you look
yeah,
at my record, you can see the years, right?
Yeah.
And I want to be a chaperone for my kid because, when you have a kid after being in the life, you're
Yeah.
afraid of everything near your kid. They're going
Yeah.
to helicopter mom to your kid now, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So when things like that, like when those barriers come, well, I've prevailed, but still, it held me back. You know what I'm saying? It's like I had to start
Yeah.
all over from like the mindset of a 15-year-old almost into the real world and be like, yo, this just as whack as being in the life sometimes.
What is your charge?
They're all just misdemeanors like common streetwalker,
Oh,
a
okay.
couple of prostitution, and because
Listen.
I had to get my Corey, I did a clinic in Boston for
Mm,
the Trafficking Survivors Relief Act, right?
yeah.
They passed me around. Boston's like, we can't do Boston. You got to go to Lynn, whatever, figure it out. Because I was arrested in Boston. This is just from Massachusetts. And
Yeah.
I want to seal it for my own imprisonment of my mind. Like
Yeah.
I've already prevailed things that it try to block me from doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like, can we just get rid of it? It can also be a part of a resume too for the future. Like this happened to me. This is part of my. Here you
Yeah.
go. I have experience in this, and this for what happened to me, right?
You have to be careful with that too, though.
Yeah, I
I
know.
learned that the hard way because I went to work at a place and I went in there telling them I'm a survivor leader and I'm so proud to be on the other side of this. And, being able to now, serve the population that I was, a part of and blah, blah, blah. And there were a couple of people who like treated me like if I was still an act of exploitation. Like,
Yeah. I sat in a room with three, like, I'm going to be 58, and these three women were a little bit older than me, right? Like
mm,
three pro bono lawyers to listen to my story so they can pull my Corey before I even get it to see if I'm eligible for all this, right?
hmm
They looked at me, and to me, I felt like my story to them was unbelievable. I felt like they weren't believing me. So I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna give you my alias. I'm gonna give you the time frame. I can even give you judges and lawyers, police officers. How about that, right?
that's the worst part. I feel like for me, it makes me want to rage. Like, if somebody's telling you something happened to them and your first thing is, you said what? And then you start gaslighting them. Like, what is wrong with, like, I don't understand. Just because it didn't happen to you and you don't know anybody it happened to, you don't believe it. When somebody else tells you that it's happening, you're like, no.
To the general population, it was actually some type of phrase similar to this. You see the movie The Sound of Freedom? It wasn't even like the same as We Were Trafficked, but
Mm-hmm.
people being trafficked for whatever.
Yeah.
To ordinary people, our stories are almost like just movie or textbook worthy. It's
Mm-hmm.
so unbelievable they only think it could happen like in a movie or in a book,
Yeah.
right? But it's really happening.
And then because it doesn't happen the way it happens in a movie or a book to some people, they're like,
It's
oh,
unrealistic.
you weren't trafficked. You were in a
Right,
relationship. You chose
right.
to do that. Like,
Why
that was
didn't
your
you leave?
decision.
Right, why didn't you leave after you got beat up? Really? How about I beat you up?
I get that so many times. Like, oh no, you weren't trafficked. You chose to do that. Like, you
Right.
chose to be in that life. I'm like, even if I chose to be in that life in the beginning, after he started threatening me, which was probably within like the first week, started
Right.
threatening me. Oh, I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna kill your grandma. I'm gonna kill your
Hmm.
son.
Your
Like,
brother,
literally
whoever.
choking me till I was purple, until I'm
Right.
like
You
almost on the
believe
brink
him.
of death. Oh
Yeah, you
yeah, I
believe
chose to
him.
be here. No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. But they don't see that side. All they see is the pictures that we posted with the money and
Right.
traveling and blah blah blah. You don't see behind the scenes. I'm sorry, I never posted a video of him freaking choking me. Like, maybe
Right.
would you believe it then? You probably still wouldn't believe it then. You probably would have said I liked it. Like,
Hmm.
it's infuriating, especially when it's coming from the people that you thought would at least have some type of common decency or like compassion for you. No.
It's because they can't fathom it,
Yep.
They just can't fathom it.
Yep. Well,
So you wrote a book, huh?
yes, I do.
How was the process with that? Was it hard?
Yes, it was. It
Did it
was.
cost a lot of money?
Oh no, like to actually do it, no. I did everything by myself. Like,
Okay.
everything. I wrote the book, I edited the book. I tried to use somebody on Fiverr to edit it. She used ChatGPT. I said, "Give me my money back. I'll you could keep your tip because you spent time on it, but you used an AI. I could have done that. Like, I thought you
Right.
were literally gonna go through the book and edit it." So then I learned how to format it and I just kept editing it, kept editing. I even changed the name because in the beginning it was Diary of a 304. And I fasted because I just felt like I was like, I need a different name for the book. I don't know. I'm no longer that. So it can't be Diary of a 304 because
Right.
I'm no longer a 304. So then I wish I could show you, but there's this, okay, like there's this keychain thing for girls with long nails. They can pull the cards out. And
Okay.
I said, I was thinking of making merch. I'm like, maybe I should make one that says I survived life as a 304. And it said wham, like God just like wham, like
Uh,
that's the title. And I was like, oh, okay. And then my sister-in-law actually is the one who helped me with the cover. Thank you, Emily. But she's the one who helped me with the cover, and I felt really bad about asking her because I'm like, she's already helped me so much. And I promise you, in the most gentlest tone, God yelled at me, just do it. And I was like, all right, I'll ask her. So I asked her, she did it like this, and that was
yeah.
it. And but the process for actually writing it was grueling because I was like, God, why do you keep having me relive this? Why do you keep
Yeah.
having me go through it? But if you were to compare the first version of my book to this one now, it is a world of difference. The first one was literally like a long text message to a friend. It had curse words, it had names, it had so much inappropriate stuff in it. And then as God kept refining me, I kept refining the book. I kept refining the book and I kept adding stuff to it because like the last five chapters are kind of like a self-help
Yeah.
section. Because the first, it's 15 chapters. The first five chapters are like about my childhood up until I met my trafficker. Then chapters 6 through 10 are my experience with my trafficker and, how I got out and stuff. And then the last five chapters are what I did when I got out and how God has helped me through all of these things. And I feel like I still have stuff to add to it because I'm learning more and more every day. And I've
Right.
grown so much even since I've written that. And I do constantly fix it because I constantly find typos or something. Obviously, I did it all myself. And then I posted it on Amazon. So I have had so many people ask me to do like an audio version, which I
Mm.
feel like I would do, and it will take me a long time, but I'd do it.
Right.
I would do it because some people like to listen to books. I like to read books. Sometimes I like to listen to books, but it's just the process. I still feel like, I mean, I
Didn't
think,
you feel better though? Like after you wrote it and got rid of it on paper? Did you feel better like in
oh,
your
it was
soul?
cathartic. It
Yeah.
absolutely was cathartic, but it was cathartic. And then in the worst moments, God wanted me to go back and redo it. And to me, the
Mm.
worst moments, but in God knew exactly what he was doing by having me go
Right.
back and fix it because he was like, fix that. And I was like, oh, I shouldn't have said that about her. I'm so sorry. Like, like, and then I'll say something about somebody else, and I was just like, oh. So I felt convicted, and I went back and God convicted me about a lot of things, and I just kept fixing it, and I constantly still fix it. Like,
It's
it's
funny.
there, it's available on Amazon and stuff, and like I don't have a Kindle version. I just sell people the PDF if they want like a e-version, but it's available. It's there.
I'm
It's
gonna check it out.
it's definitely it's definitely something. And I've
Mm.
had I've had a lot of people give me good like feedback on it, like tell me it helped them and stuff and how it opened their eyes and like I've had some girls tell me like, "Oh yeah, I left my pimp because of you." I'm just like,
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's what you want.
that's the
Hmm.
point. Yeah, that's really the
Hmm.
point. And so many people, I've had so many people tell me, "Why don't you just remove 304 off of it?" And I said because it's to get their attention. Because there's
Right.
women who don't identify as human trafficking victims or any of this other stuff. There's women who solely identify as 304s, and it's to
And
get their attention.
prostitutes. Right.
Yeah. I see, like, for me, at least when I was in the game, like, prostitute was like a dirty word. Like,
Right.
I don't want to be called that. Like,
Hmm.
that was like saying I was like the scum of the earth.
Homeboy used to tell us that the first syllable of prostitute was pro. Yeah.
Yeah,
When you get older and you think of stuff, you're like, that was some serious wordplay.
they
Like,
do. They have so much. That's what I'm just like, bro. Can you describe any positive or supportive interactions you had during your trafficking experience?
I learned the knack of talking my way out or into anything for survival and money.
Hmm.
It's still with me.
I like to say you learn a lot of transferable skills.
Uh-huh.
Cause mine, I want to say I kind of learned marketing.
A
Like,
100%. Yeah, 100%.
if you want to share any final thoughts or anything like that.
Okay, so for anyone that's in the middle of it and trying to get out, whatever vision that you have, whether you believe in God or not, right?
Hmm.
That is given to you from somewhere, whether you think it's yourself or God. So whatever, and it's a positive thing that's in your heart that you want to do, that's gonna make you better yourself in your life and get out of the life to do it. Just do it. You know what I'm saying? Step out of your comfort zone, do it afraid, just do it. There'll be steps for you to guide, you'll be guided and it will happen. You'll be like, oh damn, I didn't know it was possible because it is.
Absolutely. Because you
Hmm.
can have a vision and you don't know how it's gonna happen, and it'll happen in the most crazy way.
And I did everything I said I was gonna say to the girl before I left. I said I'm gonna leave, I'm gonna go to school, I'm gonna work with animals, I'm gonna have a kid. I should have been specific. I
Hmm.
didn't want to be a single mom. But that happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you have to be very specific when you pray because.
Yeah, I was like, oh, damn, I should have been specific more about that because I did all those three things within a 2 year span of after leaving the life.
Hmm.
So I flipped the script from like March of 97 to June of 97.
Hmm.
I did the first two things. I started my career. I got my GED. I didn't even need it. I did it for myself. And then a year later, I had my son and he was planned. He was no mistake. His dad
Hmm.
was not in the life.
Yeah.
But then I was like, damn, I didn't plan on doing this by myself.
Yeah.
Did it? You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, you got to be very, very, very specific. When the time comes, God knows. I don't want to just settle for
Right.
whatever. I want what my heart desires, and I know in my heart that if it's something that I desire, even if it's a $3 million condo in New York because New York is expensive, I'm gonna get it. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
how, don't know how long it's gonna take, because that's another thing. Don't
Uh-huh.
the time frame.
Right.
It'll happen. But thank you so much, so much for joining today.
You're
Like I
welcome.
really enjoyed this conversation and
I'm glad
hearing
I
your
covered
story.
everything too. Just bop, 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 bop.
No, listen, that's what happens when you get to
Mhm.
talking, you get to sharing your story,
Right.
especially when it's been built up for so long, you let it
Hmm.
out.
Right.
And there's no better place to do it than with somebody who understands, you know?
Facts.
So, thank you so much for joining. And I just want to say God bless you and God bless anybody who's listening.
Thank you. God bless you too. And you keep kicking ass and taking names.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that.